Yes,
Muy buenas tardes.
good
a
afternoon,
todas y a
everyone.
todos.
Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Agradezco
I
la
want to
presencia del
thank
primer
the presence
ministro
of Prime
Carney
Minister Carney.
de Canadá,
Thank you, Prime
a
Minister of
Palacio Nacional, a
Canada.
México.
Thank you for being in this National Palace. Thank you for coming to Mexico.
Tuvimos
We've had
día excelente,
an excellent
muchas
day,
reuniones.
many
Y le
meetings
paso la
throughout
palabra al
today.
ministro
I
Carney
want to give the floor. Prime Minister Carney, you have the floor so that you can address the floor here, and I will speak after you.
Me tocará mi
Prime
turno,
Minister,
y
I'll
después
get my
contestaremos sus preguntas.
turn, and then we'll answer your questions. Please.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you for the honor of receiving myself and my ministerial colleagues, our delegation here, the hospitality and the quality of the conversations and the spirit of action have been tremendous. I have to say I'm not surprised. When I was hosting the G7 earlier this year, my first invitation to a leader was to President Sheinbaum. As a reflection of the importance of the Canadian-Mexican relationship, but also the value of your leadership in your council. You did not disappoint at that meeting, and we all took many lessons from your words. I would like to thank you for, again, for the incredible soccer ball that you gave to me in Canada, it's a remarkable piece of art, whose beautiful beadwork represents the inclusivity of Indigenous peoples and the interconnectedness of communities and nations. It sits in my office of a reminder of those deeper values and also of the World Cup that is coming up. Mon invitation au président Sheinbaum reflète le rôle essentiel du Mexique et son impact croissant de l'économie mondiale en pleine transformation, ainsi qu'une occasion immédiate de commencer à rehausser l'amitié solide et historique entre le Canada et le Mexique. Now, from the time we first met, we've spoken of the many opportunities to work together, how to elevate an already strong relationship. After all, Canada and Mexico have had diplomatic ties for over 80 years. We have had free trade between our economies for over 30. And that partnership has improved the livelihoods of our workers and their families and helped make North America the economic envy of the world. Not just our economies, but North America, the economic envy of the world. And we are both committed to our shared partnership with the United States. And we look forward to using the upcoming review of TMEC, USMCA, CUSMA, different acronyms for the same thing, to find ways to make it fairer and more effective. Bilaterally, Canada and Mexico complement each other's strengths, and we stand united in times of challenge and crisis. We're acting to protect our communities against the scourge of fentanyl, and we help each other when disaster strikes. And I want to take this opportunity on behalf of all Canadians to personally thank you, Madam President, and the Mexican people for the support that Mexican firefighters gave to Canada this summer on our prairie provinces, Saskatchewan and Manitoba, saving Canadian lives, protecting their communities. Thank you. Now, over those 3 decades, we've reinforced our trading relationship. We've enabled our businesses to build more together, created new jobs for our citizens, and created the resources for social cohesion and sustainability. Et maintenant, l'économie mondiale traverse une période de profonds changements. Les chaînes d'approvisionnement se fragmentent. Les capitaux se déplacent à la recherche des rendements sûrs et durables. Et les changements climatiques représentent un risque quotidien pour les entreprises, les travailleurs et les collectivités. At this hinge moment, Canada is deepening our relationships with our long-standing partners. Partners that share our values and aspire to a better, fairer, and more sustainable world. Mexico is central to those missions. And our agreement today will expand and deepen that partnership so that the next 30 years hold even greater promise than the last 30 years have delivered. Today, we're beginning a new era of elevated cooperation with a comprehensive strategic partnership. We will scale up our engagement in foreign affairs, in trade and investment, in agriculture, natural resources, in energy, finance, health, the environment, and public safety and security. Cela signifie une collaboration plus étroite et des résultats plus rapides dans les secteurs prioritaires pour faire croître nos économies. We've anchored this partnership in an action plan with 4 pillars: prosperity, security, inclusivity, and sustainability. It's our blueprint to build together. So for prosperity, we'll prioritize the development of strategic infrastructure, including ports, rail, trade, and energy corridors. We'll unlock new opportunities for trade and investment, from energy to agriculture to aerospace. We'll collaborate bilaterally and with the United States to reinforce the strong foundations of our economic integration and our regulatory cooperation, with a view to making North America remaining the most competitive region in the world. And we will strengthen the integration of our agri-food value chains and increase bilateral trade in safe and secure agricultural products. We'll also strengthen our model of controlled and predictable labor migration to meet the unique needs in agriculture, seafood, and processing sectors. As part of our new action plan, we will create a new bilateral security dialogue to combat transnational organized crime, human smuggling, and cybercrime. To promote inclusivity and well-being, we'll work together to foster economies grounded in fair, safe, and equitable work environments. And we'll enhance cooperation in health policy, including addressing health insecurity, infectious diseases, and substance abuse. Both President Sheinbaum and I and our citizens have long recognized that addressing climate change is both a moral duty and a commercial imperative. And accordingly, Canada and Mexico will deepen our cooperation in climate and conservation, with action to protect wildlife, reduce emissions, sustainably manage our freshwater resources. We'll explore cooperation opportunities in emission reductions, investments in renewables, and the development of smart grids. Now, it's a long list, but it's a subset of what we intend to do. So our ministers and our officials will begin work straight away. For example, our Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food will visit Mexico next month to discuss those opportunities in agricultural trade. Minister LeBlanc will lead a trade mission to Mexico shortly thereafter to build on immediate opportunities in trade and investment. And of course, in 9 months, the world's game will come to our continent. Canada, Mexico, and the United States co-hosting the World Cup. 48 nations, 16 cities, millions of fans, biggest tournament in history. Now, it's a little new for Canada. For Mexico, it's a return to greatness. Your 3rd time hosting the World Cup after 2 tournaments filled with iconic moments. Pelé lifting the Jules Rimet Trophy in the Azteca. Maradona scoring one of 2 goals of the century in '86. The hand of God scoring the other. The economic boost from the World Cup will go far beyond the field. In Canada alone, it will add $2 billion to our economy. We'll build infrastructure that will last long after the last whistle. Et nos cultures mises en valeur sur la plus grande scène mondiale. Et dans un monde divisé, nous pourrons être unis par l'amour du beau jeu. I'm pleased to share that Adam Van Koeverden, Canada's Secretary of State for Sport, will serve as our FIFA Sherpa to support cooperation coordination with Mexico and the United States ahead of the World Cup. Let me conclude just by observing what's obvious, but what's essential. We are both undertaking massive transformations of our economy. Plan Mexico Canada strong. Our efforts will be strengthened by working together. As President Sheinbaum said at the G7 summit, and I quote, "In an interdependent world, no country can isolate itself." And as your predecessor, one of your predecessors, Benito Juarez, counseled, "Entre los individuos como entre las naciones, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz." And if I butchered that too much for the translator, among individuals as amongst nations, respect for the rights of others is peace. And it's by balancing this respect for sovereignty and the belief in cooperation that Canada and Mexico will build together for the benefit of our peoples. Thank you, President Sheinbaum. Merci beaucoup. Gracias.
Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prime Minister
Agradecer la
Carney. I want to
presencia
thank
del
the
primer
presence
ministro de
of
Canadá, Mark Carney.
Prime Minister of
nuestro
Canada, Mark Carney.
así
Thank you
como
for
de la
being in Mexico.
comitiva que lo
Thank you for
acompaña.
coming and your delegation as well.
Igual
I also
especial
extend
esposa,
special acknowledgement
Diana,
to your wife,
cuya presencia
Diana,
hoy en México
whose presence today in
es para
Mexico
nosotros
is for
motivo de
us
gran alegría y
reason
símbolo del
for
aprecio
joy
que une
and
a nuestras
symbol
naciones.
of the appreciation uniting
sido un
our
honor
nations. What an
recibirles
honor
en el
having you
Palacio
today
Nacional
here at this National Palace of
sostener una
Mexico,
reunión de trabajo
holding this working
que
meeting
refleja el espíritu de
held
amistad,
reflects the spirit of
respeto,
friendship,
cooperación
respect,
que
and
caracteriza la
cooperation
relación entre
characterizing the
México
relationship
y
between
Canadá.
Mexico and Canada.
Hoy
Today,
avanzamos de manera
we're
muy
moving forward. We have
Tuvimos
moved
una
forward very important
primera
manner.
reunión
We had a first meeting today,
el ministro
and
Carney y su servidora.
Prime Minister Carney
Después
and
una
myself.
reunión con
After
nuestros
that,
equipos
we
y
had a
finalmente
meeting with our
una
teams,
reunión con
and after that, a
empresarios
meeting
canadienses y
with the
empresarios
Canadian business
empresarios
community and
mexicanos.
also with the Mexican
Eh,
business community.
acordamos un plan de
We
acción
agreed
muy
an
importante
action plan, a very
que
important action
esperemos
plan.
dé resultados
We
muy
hope it
pronto
will be
en
giving us
términos de
very good
nuestra
results
relación
very soon in
bilateral,
terms
pero
of the
también
bilateral
de la
relationship,
relación que
but also in
tenemos
terms of the
como
relationship
países
we
de América
have
del
with
Norte
countries of
con el
North
tratado
America
comercial.
with the free
Este
trade
plan de acción
agreement, with the
va a
trade
permitir
agreement. This
coordinar
action
de
plan
manera
will allow
más
us to
amplia y
coordinate in a
estructurada
broader, more
nuestros
structured fashion
esfuerzos en
our
distintos
different efforts
ámbitos
in different
de la
spheres
relación bilateral.
of the bilateral
Este
relationship.
plan de acción
And this
abre una
action
nueva
plans will
etapa
open a new
en la que
stage in
fortalecemos
which
aún
we
más
strengthen
los
even more
vínculos económicos, sociales y
economic,
culturales
social,
que nos
cultural
unen.
ties uniting us.
En la reunión que
In
sostuvimos y
the
el
meeting we
acuerdo
had and through the
al que hemos
agreement
llegado,
we have reached,
acordamos una serie
we agreed on
de
various
visiones y trabajos
visions and
conjuntos.
joint work as well.
Primero,
First
evidentemente,
of all,
acordamos el
evidently, we agreed
fortalecimiento
on
del tratado
strengthening
comercial
the trade
México,
agreement
Estados
to
Unidos,
Mexico,
Canadá,
the U.S.,
que ha
and
traído a los tres
Canada
países de
that
América
has
del
brought
Norte
all
mucha
three
prosperidad.
North American countries,
Este
and it has
tratado no
given
solo
them
ha
so much
incrementado el comercio y las
prosperity, not only
oportunidades de
to
inversión,
increase investment
sino que ha
opportunities
generado
and
empleos
trade.
mejor
It has
remunerados,
generated better paid
cadenas de
jobs
suministro más
and
sólidas
more
y
sound
mercados más
supply chains and
competitivos.
more competitive
Coincido
markets. I
plenamente en
fully
que
coincide
somos la
in
región
that
más
we are
importante
the
en
most
términos
important
económicos
region
del
in
mundo.
economic terms in the
El
world.
TEMEC es una prueba
And
de que cuando
USMCA,
trabajamos
TEMEC,
juntos,
and CUSMA
México, Canadá y
shows
Estados
that whenever
Unidos,
we work together,
podemos
Mexico,
crear
Canada, and the
prosperidad,
United States, we can
enfrentar
create
con
prosperity
éxito los retos
and face
globales
global
y
challenges with great
posicionarnos como una
success
de
and
las
position
regiones
ourselves
más
as one
dinámicas
of the
del
most
mundo.
dynamic regions of the
Con
world.
Canadá queremos
With
avanzar hacia
Canada,
una
we want to
relación
move
aún
forward
más
towards
dinámica y
an even
equilibrada
more dynamic and
que abra nuevas
well-balanced relationship,
oportunidades
open new
para las
opportunities
empresas,
for
que
companies,
impulse la innovación
promoting
y
innovation
genere
as well,
bienestar
and
compartido.
generating shared well-being for our
Dialogamos
countries.
también
We also
sobre
held a
el acuerdo que
dialogue
tenemos
on the agreement
para
we
los
already have
trabajadores
for workers
que van a
who
los campos de
go
Canadá
out in the Canadian fields and
para poderlo
countryside
mantener.
so that we can maintain this
Reafirmamos
agreement
también
and this
nuestro
program.
compromiso
We
con la
also
cooperación
reassert our
educativa,
commitment with
cultural y científica
educational,
y de
cultural,
innovación,
scientific
en
innovation,
particular en áreas de
cooperation
innovación
particularly in
tecnológica,
technological
formación de
innovation
jóvenes
areas,
que
training our
representan
youths
el futuro de nuestras
who
naciones.
represent the future of our nations.
Conversamos sobre la
And we also
importancia de
spoke
una
about the
colaboración
importance
estrecha
of
también
very
en
close
materia de
collaboration
seguridad,
in terms of
con
security,
pleno respeto a
with
nuestras
full respect
soberanías,
for our
pero con
sovereignties,
una
but
colaboración en
also with
distintas áreas
collaboration in
que nos
different
permite
areas, allowing us
enfrentar
to
juntos
together
desafíos
face up
de la
to the
región.
different challenges we have throughout our
Celebramos,
region.
esto
We
no lo dije
also,
en la reunión
I didn't say
con el
this in the
ministro
meeting,
Carney, pero
Prime
lo comento
Minister
aquí,
Carney, but I'm saying it right now. We celebrate constant growth of Canadian tourism in Mexico. We truly celebrate it because we have an increasingly growing number of families and visitors coming to Mexico as their tourist destination. We express our will to continue facilitating this because this strengthens human cultural ties and also economic ties between our two societies. I'm fully convinced, Prime Minister, that this action plan strengthens the trade agreement of all three countries of North America, and it will be translated very soon into direct benefits for our societies. More opportunities for investment, more quality jobs, more innovation, more investment, more social justice, and more prosperity, of course. The relationship between our two countries is not just an institutional relationship, or it's not just a commercial trade relationship, it is deeply human relationship. That's what it is. We're united by migrant families, students, indigenous communities who share roots and traditions, as well as the commitment of peoples for peace, equity, and solidarity at the international level. I want to express, on behalf of the Mexican people today, our appreciation, our gratefulness for the goodwill of Prime Minister Carney to strengthen this relationship and to continue building a common future that will be making our friendship even stronger. We trust that the agreements we've reached today will have continuity, will bear concrete fruits short term. Mexico and Canada will continue walking together with mutual respect and with the certainty that cooperation is the path to overcome any challenge of our time. Thank you very much. Could you help us, please? Good afternoon.
Bonjour, Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada. Monsieur Carney, je vais vous demander de répondre en français et en anglais. Vous dites que vous allez coordonner étroitement vos efforts en vue de la révision de l'accord Canada-États-Unis-Mexique. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire concrètement? Et est-ce que vous vous engagez, chacun d'entre vous, à ne pas exclure l'autre et signer un accord seulement avec M. Trump? Y en español, ustedes dicen que van a colaborar.
You say you will collaborate in the review of TEMEC, USMA, CUSMA. What does that mean? And Mexico pledges to not sign an agreement without Canada. Thank you.
Je vais commencer. Merci pour votre question, Madame Martin. On commence avec le fait que la région, comme Madame la Présidente vient de dire, que la région économique nord-américaine est la plus concurrente région du monde. Et il y a plusieurs raisons pour ce fait, mais une des raisons, c'est la coopération entre les États-Unis, le Mexique et le Canada, et entre le Canada et le Mexique. Alors, nous sommes plus forts ensemble, premier point. Deuxièmement, nous avons un accord aujourd'hui, un plan d'action qui va complémenter, un complément pour l'ASEAN, c'est TMEC en espagnol, et nous sommes, je suis confiant, je crois que Madame la Présidente est aussi, je suis confiant que nous pouvons trouver quelques ajustements de l'ASEAN qui va renforcer la concurrence, la compétitivité de cette région et du Mexique et du Canada et évidemment des États-Unis en même temps. Ça suffit? Do you want that in English as well? We start with the fact, both Madam President and myself, that North America is the economic envy of the world. It's the most competitive economic region of the world. And part of the reason for that is the cooperation between Canada and Mexico, both of us and the United States. We complement the United States, we make them stronger. We are all stronger together. The agreement we have today between our two nations complements CUSMA in English, TMEC, l'ASEAN in French. It complements that agreement. And I'm confident that with our review, our individual reviews and our collective discussions on USMCA, to use the American term, we will reinforce the strength of our economies, our individual economies, and the fact that we are stronger together.
Lo comenté en la reunión con los empresarios.
I said that in the meeting with the entrepreneurs. I'm optimistic, not only because I'm convinced about it, but it's because I believe that the USMCA, TEMEC, CUSMA, will prevail. No doubt about that. Now, the most recent publication by the USTR, the agreement unit from convening and reviewing the TEMEC, USMCA, and CUSMA, that comes to show the goodwill in that regard. We have gone through some circumstances where we've experienced situations because of the U.S. tariffs, but most of our trade with the U.S. is still tariff-free. And that is because it's competitive for all three countries. So I fully agree with Prime Minister Carney. We are the most competitive region in the world, the envy of the world. The only way we can compete with other regions in the world is by driving the trade agreement with the three countries, and our vision, our objective is just that. So we are optimistic. We remain optimistic while bearing in mind the circumstances, because the trade lines between U.S., Mexico, and Canada, and the three countries, the economic integration we have between the three countries, and that is what works best for us, for all three countries. So along these lines, well, we will start with these working tables, and, well, we're optimistic about the results this will yield. Good afternoon, Julio Sanchez from Uno TV. Good afternoon, Prime Minister, Madam President. Thank you. I'd like to ask you in regard to the topic on security and the agreement to keep on driving jointly all the efforts. So what is a challenge of both nations in the midst of a new political stance of the U.S. when facing the drug cartels? So if so, what are the joint challenges? And did you talk about that? Do you recognize the fact that in Canada there's a presence of a Mexican cartel presence in Canada? Have you reckoned that?
Let me begin by saying that with respect to transnational crime, organized crime, cartels, gangs, the unfortunate fact is that there are yes, there are gangs from one country in another country, but also vice versa. I'm going to acknowledge that there are Canadian gangs that operate in Mexico. We cooperate with the Mexican authorities. We share information. We're deepening that cooperation. Surveillance, heightened police cooperation is appropriate in order to ensure that these criminals are brought to justice and not wavering in the efforts to bring them to justice, whether the activities are in Canada, Mexico, or the United States. Today, what we agreed is to reinforce that bilateral cooperation on security with respect to the specific issue you're asking, but please recognize what I said in terms of the activities are true in both countries, which is why the cooperation, as in all the cooperation, is two-way. But I'll just take a moment to reinforce another point, which the needs for security for our countries go broader than that. They include cybersecurity, foreign interference, defense cooperation, and we have enormous opportunities to cooperate there. And this is part, and I'm going to reuse a word I used at the start, of the elevation of the relationship, the bringing up of the relationship, because there's a very clear strategy that's been developed around those issues, which will make sure that our citizens, whether in Mexico, Canada, or beneficiaries as well in the United States, that they are living in safer communities.
Certainly, in regard to the respect of our sovereignties, there will always be cooperation and collaboration. And recently, we held a meeting with Canada, our security cabinet. We cooperated with the Northern Command of the United States in different domains, Canada and us as well. And obviously, we seek the best ways to cooperate and coordinate and guarantee the security in our countries. Most particularly, Canada has great experience in cybersecurity, so we're interested in knowing how you work in that area, and so that we can see some cooperation and collaboration in terms of the best practices you have in order for us to incorporate them. And very recently, they just built and strengthened their border area through different mechanisms, so we'd be interested in knowing more about that. So obviously, in the framework of our sovereignty, cooperation and collaboration are part of this action plan we have agreed upon. Thank you. And, well, I'd like to ask you, did you talk about the work visas and what was mentioned about that? What were the engagements? Did you agree on any type of regulation? Well, yes, we issue work visas from Canada to Mexico. They're very useful for the Canadian economy, and we have agreed that they will be kept in respecting the Canadian political framework. Our labor ministries will keep on collaborating in the action plan we have defined. So you would not enlarge them. Now, so far, it's the way they stand, and then we will have the working tables to see if it would be feasible to enlarge them or not. Now, lastly, Madam President, Prime Minister, sir, did you talk about recovering the summit of North American leaders to host a trilateral meeting, Mexico, United States, Canada? Would that be possible? Well, we will wait for the review I spoke about, and then we will slate a meeting if possible.
Yeah, that's right. We individually, collectively have very open lines of communication with the third member of that group in here. We'll work through the process of the review. I'm confident that we will be united in the Meadowlands in 9 months' time as Canada plays Mexico for the World Cup final. All three leaders will be there for that great event.
Good evening, Steve Chase with the Globe and Mail newspaper. I wanted to first follow up on the question you were asked earlier, which we didn't hear an answer from my CBC colleague. I'll rephrase it. Donald Trump is going to try to divide Canada and Mexico, and will Canada and Mexico both commit to not throwing each other under the bus?
Okay.
They're here.
I mean, it's a remarkable question. Of course, we are going to cooperate directly as we always have. CUSMA, USMCA, is strength together. It's strength of the three countries together. That's what makes North America that contributes to North America be the economic envy of the world. And Canada is absolutely committed to work with both our partners. If there's opportunities to improve the agreement, we will pursue those. We can think of some. Our Mexican colleagues can. I'm sure the Americans will as well. That'll be informed by our review process. But we'll move forward together, without question. Is that unequivocal enough for you? Because if you want it to be unequivocal, just write down unequivocal. Okay, Steve? Thank you. En français, c'est sans équipe, sans équipe, sans variation, c'est absolu, c'est une réponse absolue. On va travailler ensemble afin d'améliorer l'accord, afin d'améliorer l'OCM. Il y a des occasions, selon le Canada, selon le Mexique et bien sûr selon les Américains, on va trouver une solution.
Estamos convencidos que el
We're
tratado comercial de los tres
convinced
países es lo
that
mejor para
the
los tres países.
trade agreement for all three countries is the best thing for all three countries. That's the best answer we can give you.
And if I may just follow up with the question I intended to ask. Twice this week, the U.S. ambassador to Canada has been telling Canadians about his great disappointment. He has said, Pete Hoekstra has said twice that the United States had hoped for a bigger deal with Canada than just the CUSMA, than just the USMCA. He said they had hoped for a deal that encompassed critical minerals, steel, energy, nuclear, but it wasn't possible. So he said this to two audiences this week. What's your side of the story?
Tout est possible. On commence en français, tout est possible. Oui, c'est possible d'avoir un accord plus grand, un accord y compris la sécurité, la défense, l'économie. Mais il faut être un accord qui est dans les intérêts des Canadiens et Canadiennes. Yes, jusqu'à ce moment-ci, c'est pas sur la table. Until this point, that bigger deal that's in the interest not just of the United States, but in the interest of the Canadian people is not on the table. But it's still possible. What is the fact is that Canada and Mexico have the best actual trading relationship, trading agreements with the United States. First point. Second point is that a process is just beginning with reviews in each of our country, consultations in each of our country, of how that relationship can be improved. And while those consultations are going on, of course, we're having bilateral discussions with the United States, so you may see improvements along the way. We have the ambition, but you know, a deal is a deal, and a deal has to go for both sides, and Canada will agree a deal that's in the best interest of Canadians. It should not surprise anyone, including the U.S. ambassador, who's doing a very good job, I would add. Thank you. For America.
Última pregunta.
Gracias, buenos días. Angélica Guerrero del
Yes,
Financiero
Angélica
Bloomberg.
Guerrero, El
Rapidísimo,
Financiero
en el tema
Bloomberg.
de los aranceles,
On
a mí me
tariffs.
gustaría saber si
I
México
wanted
y
to know
Canadá
if Mexico and
tendrían,
Canada,
después de las conversaciones que
after
tuvieron hoy, una
the
estrategia
conversations you
conjunta
held today,
para
do you have a
enfrentarnos,
joint
especialmente
strategy
en
to
temas
face up to
donde los
those
comparten, por
tariffs,
ejemplo, el tema
especially
de
where you
automóviles
share them
y del
automotive
acero,
industry
claro,
and
además de
steel,
todo
for
esto que
instance?
ya han presentado?
And then, aside from everything you have already said, please.
Como saben,
As you know,
hay una publicación del gobierno de
there's
Estados
a
Unidos,
publication made by the
pues,
U.S.
lo que está
administration
ocurriendo.
on what is
En el caso
happening.
de los
In the case
automóviles,
of
hay un
automobiles,
arancel
there's a tariff
establecido para todo el mundo,
established for
en excepción
everyone,
de los
for the
acuerdos
entire
que
world.
al que
And
está llegando Estados
this
Unidos,
is the terms of the agreements of the United States,
disminuyendo la parte que está
reducing
fabricada
the parts
en
that's
los Estados
manufactured
Unidos.
in the United
Aún
States.
en estas condiciones,
Even under those
México
conditions,
está exportando
Mexico is exporting
Canadá
vehicles,
está
and
exportando
Canada is also
incluso en
doing
estas
the
condiciones.
same, even under those
Eso
conditions.
habla de la
This
competitividad
talks about
de las
competitiveness
industrias
of
automotrices
the
para los
automotive
tres
industries
países.
for all three
Ha
countries.
caído un poco la exportación,
Exports have fallen a
pero
little
sigue la
bit, yes,
exportación
but
en manera mundial.
export continues being
Y por
very
supuesto
important.
que vamos
And
a
of course,
buscar
we are going to
defender esa
look for
competitividad
ways to
que tienen
defend
las
that
empresas
competitiveness
automotrices
of the automotive
para los tres
industries
países.
for all three countries. And
Y vamos a
we
compartir
are going to
información en
be
el
sharing
proceso,
information
sea
throughout the
que
process,
tengamos
whether
estas reuniones
we have
bilaterales
those bilateral
o si hay
meetings
reuniones
or whether there are
trilaterales,
trilateral
pues
meetings as well.
evidentemente
Well, evidently,
estaremos
we are going to
compartiendo
be
información
sharing
entre
information
nosotros
among
de
us
cómo vamos a
on
avanzar.
how it is
En
that
el
we're
caso
making
del acero,
progress.
pues
Now, in
tenemos
terms of steel, we have 50%
de arancel
of
y
tariff,
evidentemente
and
estamos buscando un
obviously,
mejor
we're
acuerdo.
looking for a better agreement
situación
on
es
that. Now,
distinta.
there's a different
Nosotros,
situation. I mean, we
somos
are we have a deficit. I mean, the U.S. exports more steel than what we export to the United States. However, we are obviously looking for a better condition. Now, in any of the circumstances, as I have mentioned, I am certain that the treaty, the agreement will prevail. And something more important, there's a dialogue with the U.S. administration, a permanent dialogue with the U.S. administration.
Well, I don't have much to add, associate myself with the President's response. I'll just add one final point on integration and the degree of integration and the strength that comes from that. And I hope he won't mind one of the CEOs in the meetings we had with business is the CEO of Martinrea, which is an auto parts company that has thousands of employees in Canada, thousands in the United States, and 9,000, I believe, in Mexico. And I've been to some of their factories in Canada. And I know that the parts from the factories then go to Mexico and vice versa, depending on the part, and then ultimately are part of final assembly for U.S. vehicles that make those vehicles better, they make them more cost-effective, they make them more effective. That's the reality of the auto industry that has been built. And that's the reality of an auto industry that we're working not just to preserve, but to reinforce and make better. And we welcome, my final word is also to reinforce the optimism, to use your word, Madam President. There's tremendous value in this trading relationship. And the fact that the United States, as we both expected, has started the review, the consultation process of it, that's a good thing. Because the story of Martinrea, the story of other auto parts companies, of steel companies, of services companies that are building our economies, they come out in a more comprehensive way through consultations. And so ultimate decisions and agreements around tariffs and rules of origin standards and third country tariffs, they'll be very well informed by this process and taken in a calm, deliberate manner. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Me permiten, por favor,
If you allow
con
me,
el plan que han presentado
with the
en
plan
esta
you
tarde,
presented
quisiera
this
saber
afternoon,
a cuánto
I wanted
asciende
to
el
know
intercambio de mercancías
what's
entre
the
ambos países
exchange of
y qué
merchandise between
porcentaje
both
esperan
nations
que
and what
incremente
percentage do you
en
think
el
you'll
próximo o a corto plazo, como
will be
mencionaba
increasing
la
short-term or
presidenta
medium-term,
Sheinbaum. Y
as
también
President Sheinbaum
supimos
just
que tuvieron
explained, and
reunión
we
con
also know you
empresarios.
met with
¿Qué
business
montos,
communities, with the
si
businessmen and
pudiéramos
women?
saber ya el
Amounts, could we
comprometido de
get some
inversiones
amounts of committed
para los
investment
próximos años
for
o lo que
the
haya
following
incluido el
years,
acuerdo?
or whatever the agreement includes?
So, look, we take a bit of a different view of the relationship, the economic relationship between the countries. We take a view of how can we help our citizens? How can we adjust regulation? How can we make sure our tax regimes, our tariff regimes, our trading regimes, sharing of information, talent, how can we do all that? And then we trust in the outcome. So, for example, over the 30 years of trade, free trade, Canada's trade with Mexico has gone up 10 times. I don't know exactly how much more it'll go up with the measures we will take, or the investment, which is measured in the tens and tens of billions of dollars. We're not requiring amounts of investment. We're creating the conditions for significant investment. But what I do know is this, that the scale and depth of what we're agreeing to and what we intend to implement, and I'll speak for Mexico, well, also for Canada, the scale of the domestic ambition, Plan Mexico, Canada Strong, is such that we would expect much greater amounts of trade, much greater amounts of investment to build over the coming 30 years than we've seen over the last 30 years. Because our economies are that much closer, our values are aligned, and our ambitions are greater. Thank you.
No tengo mucho más que
I
agregar.
don't have much to
En el
add.
marco del tratado comercial que
Within the
tenemos
framework of the free
Estados
trade
Unidos y
agreement
Canadá,
we
o
have
Canadá, Estados
among
Unidos y
Mexico, the U.S. and
evidentemente se
Canada,
fortalecen nuestras
the
economías y
U.S.
buscamos mayor
and
inversión y
Mexico,
mayor
our
comercio.
economies are being strengthened. We want more
todas
investment,
maneras, lo
more
que
trade, of course.
acordamos es que en
At any
términos de
rate, what
nuestra
we
relación
agreed was that in
bilateral,
terms of the bilateral
aumenten las
relationship,
inversiones y también
investment
el
should
comercio
increase,
en
and
distintas
also
áreas.
trade in different areas. Now, how much can it increase? This is part of what we're going to be working on in these following months. And the important thing, and I am enormously appreciate and want to thank Prime Minister Carney, because we're very open in our conversation. It was a protocol meeting, but it was especially a working meeting. And that strengthens the Mexico-Canada relationship, the economic development of our countries for the well-being of our peoples.
Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a todas y todos su amable
Thank you,
asistencia. La
everyone,
conferencia
for
de
your
prensa
kind
conjunta ha
attendance.
terminado.
This joint press conference is adjourned. Thank you.
Very good. Let's